Any opposed? All right then. All right, well, got that business out of the way. Gentlemen in the front, it's your show. That would be Paul, Dave, and Ken.
What we decided is we'd have like a town hall style meeting, so open forum questions. So whatever people ask, we'll give you the best answer that we know that exists that we have. And if we don't have the answer to it, obviously, Pam's taking notes, and Amanda's also due to the sunshine request law, she has to also take notes. So she'll have notes also that we can refer back to if there's a question I can't entertain or don't know the answer to. Because there are some questions that may involve the security part of the county that we do typically in a closed session that we can't speak to, or some other thing we can't speak to. Other than that, open the floor to any questions. Commissioner Overschmidt, Commissioner Schatz have something to add?
So I prefer like that question and answer. We'll answer it.
We'll start off with whoever wants to throw off. I guess you can.
I'll start with the budget. I'll start with the budget. If I've got my facts right, this is your first go around, all three of you, your first go around with the county budget. And if I understand correctly, the department heads are supposed to have their budget requests into the auditor sometime this month. Is that?
Yeah, it's
okay. Right. Before January 1. Okay.
Auditor, she's got to go through all stuff too. But we look at it then until we can come up to an agreement with the different departments and other electeds. And then once we all come to agreement, then she goes through it. Angela, the auditor, make sure everything's kosher and stuff that we decided.
Had some preliminary meetings, budget meetings already. We schedule those, continue to schedule those each week as we go through this process. It is the first time that I've been through the county budget. So it is kind of a process that we'll become more familiar with as we go along.
You critique everybody's budget when everybody turns them in, you critique every one of them?
To my knowledge, sheriffs, the electeds and the non-electeds, if they're department heads, we also go over their budgets and approve or disapprove.
So you literally go through every single one. You don't just nod and say, yeah, we're just gonna take you at your word, this is good.
We don't plan on it. Like I said, I've never went through the budget before. Paul and I came in at the beginning of a budget that was already put together. So we didn't get the opportunity to go, and go through that process. So as far as I understand the process, we look at each and every one on its own merit and yay or nay it or decide, what may not even be enough money there for what people are asking.
That's what I'm saying.
As opposed to last year. Last year, they wanted us to approve the budget after we looked at it for about 4 days. I said, you got to approve this right now or people aren't going to get paid. We're not going to get caught that.
Yeah, don't get strong on me. Yeah.
So the department heads work on a zero-based budget when they formulate their budget, or?
I've only heard of one entity doing that. That was Tim Baker. He mentioned that he does starts off at zero, does his budget. Now others may, but I don't know about it. Maybe, the other two commissioners may. I haven't heard anything like that.
And do you have like a line item veto that you can use on budget?
Well, we can deny it, yeah.
I would think it would be more of a dollar amount than it would be a line item per se, but again.
Typically the line items would probably be the same as they had last year, same line items, unless something drastically changed.
So is it here?
Commissioner Schatz is saying it's usually monetary. Sorry.
Even if the expectation needed there's something. I mean, if you have to review them all.
You mean if everyone used that process? I guess, so there's no mandate to my knowledge of what, you know,
But as
That's why.
the.
Could there be?
Couldn't you mandate zero-based budget?
on our department heads, we probably could, but we don't control electeds. So, I mean, if the elected official, because they're elected like we are, so if they decide to use their process that they're using, I don't know that we have any. Maybe you can answer that question back there. You've been going through the budget, so you do it the way you want to do it as elected, your budget.
Well, there is a collaboration, obviously.
But I mean, how you arrive at your budget.
Right.
You don't,
I mean, historically, I mean, if something goes wrong, obviously that's something that you would want to maybe get some discovery. But as everybody knows, it's in business, nothing is staying the same. So you're gonna have to expect that what you had last year is probably not exactly what you're gonna have this year.
yeah, and to my knowledge, I mean, some of the budgets are mandated, like the auditors, it's a mandated budget that we have to provide a budget in order for her to perform her services. And then, to my knowledge, a collector is a fix. We can't ever do, we can't reduce the budget the collector had from last year, is my understanding, by law, statute. Whatever they have, it can go up, but it can't go down. So they had some really good lobbyists, I guess, the collectors thing throughout the state.
So what's the maintenance shed that's on the west?
On 50, yeah.
Highway 50, is that scrapped or going on?
No, we're still, I mean, the county owns property, so, you know, we need to put it to some use. And right now, currently, the sheriff's department is in need of a range. They have no shooting range because when the existing range they had over there at the jail, when they expanded the jail project, that it didn't physically take the range out, but auditorily it took it out. The decimal readings were too high for the federal government.
But it's not gonna be a maintenance shed, it's not gonna have.
No.
Highway department.
No, there'd be it's gonna be, right now, what we're kicking around and like, you know, everything's fluid. It's gonna be a training facility, multi-use training facility for, you know, for the entire county, you know, for the county use
That's storage.
and storage. Cause we'll have, salt and, you know, material storage for the rooms out there, cause there's 41 acres in there. And, but the first plan, I know that the largest need, critical need is a range for they qualify, because they have to by mandate qualify every so often. So they need a range, because they go out and borrow and beg to go throughout the area, the state. They try and stay in the region, but sometimes just no availability that they can use that range at to go further.
Do you know anything about the requirements to be certified as range, or what the regulations are in that regard
For
for the size of
the
it?
type of range,
Yeah.
we're relying on the sheriff. You know,
It was engineered, there was drawings done by engineering, that engineered the range, so obviously I would simply the specifications necessary.
because they have mandated distances they got to qualify at.
Is it indoor? Is it indoor range?
Pardon?
Or indoor range?
Oh,
No, it's all outdoor to this.
Gotta be outdoor.
Well, it don't have to be, I don't think, but that's all we're doing financially is an outdoor. Pistol and rifle, what he's looking for.
Have you considered Top Gun supports the gun club in Franklin County, right on the border of Washington County?
I don't know what the restrictions are for their use, because we spoke to the sheriff, I know Paul and I did, and I think Dave also spoke to him on different occasions. Their use when they need it, it's huge. They got a lot of depth.
I'm a member of it, and I just know they have a very good pistol range and they have a long rifle.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's a matter of it not meeting the qualifications. It's a matter of if you want to lose touch of that range for 2 or 3 months. But it sounds the way you talk, they're in there full time when they got hundreds of officers, so. And I guess they have to qualify as their shotgun, any firearm that they have to qualify with it. Whether it's a rifle, shotgun, or pistol, and now pistol with red dot, electronic side, they have to qualify with it and be certified on.
Looking at me.
Well, I thought.
So we're just gonna
Roger's supposed to be picking, or was you gonna pick people as a?
Oh, I was
That
just
way,
let
single point control.
yeah, whatever. No, you can control it. I was, no, my question is, a lot of people pretty upset about property taxes. And a lot of people's taxes are going to go up a lot. And then maybe if you could speak on the status of the senior tax freeze, property tax freeze too, we'd appreciate that.
Tax. There are counties that were exempted from that. Some were able to raise, increase by 5%, some at no limitations. That is something that we are going to be tasked with putting on the ballot before April. And so unless something changes, that will be something that will be put on the ballot for voters to choose in Franklin County, because we are one of the counties that was given that option to be able to choose to freeze our property taxes. So that is something that we will see coming forward. Again, the senior that really has, ultimately freeze property taxes for everyone at that point. So it won't affect the senior property tax freeze. But again, it's going to be something that the voters will ultimately get a chance to choose for. I had concerns the way that it was structured. It's going to be very costly for the county to put this election on because there is nothing going to be on the ballot at that time. The state is not funding that election, so it's going to be at a cost to the county to do that. And there's a likelihood there's already been potential challenges to the constitutionality of it. And that's my concern, is we would spend maybe several $175,000 on election that it could ultimately be thrown out by courts. And then have to start back over.
And that's mandated.
It's mandated. We don't have any choice but to put it before the vote.
Still making some good income.
80,000.
If I could get clarification here, currently, there is no freeze on the seniors' property taxes?
Yes, the seniors.
No, the seniors is good.
Okay, I'm wondering why I keep coming here and fill out all that paperwork.
Yeah, we have
That's not impacted
Talking
by.
about the, so what is this election going to cover everyone else?
Everyone.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Got to open it to everyone, as opposed to being 62 and older.
I see. I see.
And my knowledge of the senior tax freeze, I filled out paperwork also, is that we're gonna be frozen. And my concern was, if you do anything a little different, then are they gonna come back and reassess you? You know, you lose that freeze and you get reassessed, and then you get frozen again at the higher assessment.
Yeah, well, we're conservatives.
Well, from what Dawn, our assessor, was sharing with me, according to her, is that, say you put in a garage and that would be assessed, they would come back and only assess that garage. So the rest of your property wouldn't change, if you would be frozen. The only increase would be the assessment for that garage. And then that would be frozen at whatever they assessed it at until you did another improvement. And then they would look at each thing as an individual. Unless I guess you tore everything down, start over.
But you do have to sign up every year.
Every year.
Yes. Yeah, because I might get younger.
Benjamin Butler, hey, I'm all for that.
You never know. I might get younger.
I hope you do.
This thing's about 21.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Be more for you. They put the severability clause in that bill, and I thought that this was gonna be pulled out, and that was gonna not, withstand the legal muster behind it, so what happened?
Yeah, I think we'll see. I think we'll see, right? We don't know. I think the presiding commissioner kind of hit it. It's not structured well, and it's probably not going to hold up. Right.
That's why it has that constitutional challenge. And again, the way it's structured, some counties, like I said, are frozen. Some are given the 5% increase, and some are given the opportunity to not even have done at all. And so I think in the end, if it is challenged, it won't be able to be challenged until someone files a case after it's been voted on by the people. That's the,
Oh, that's the thing, we aren't gonna know until after.
we're not gonna know
Okay,
it.
so the legislature put the severability clause in there, knowing it wasn't good. This is the kind of stuff that we put up with. Crazy.
I made an inquiry to our legal counsel, Mark Piantek, and asked him that question.
Yeah,
And according to him, for what he understands the law as it was written, is if one thing gets thrown out, it all gets thrown out. So the severability didn't sound like it was there. Because, or else it wouldn't all get thrown out, obviously, if one got thrown out.
but we aren't even gonna know that until the people vote on it.
Right.
The severability,
Yeah, because unfortunately, that has to come first, and then someone.
It has to be, the case has to be right before before it's taken to court and challenged.
because the severability would only allow them to throw out the property tax part where the citizens would benefit for the stadium.
The stadium.
Just fine.
Correct.
The absolute
Yep.
premise of the whole
So
thing.
they make sure. that
Nailed it.
it's ready. How fun.
Nailed it. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
sounds par for the course.
Session, but it was, I think, in the process, ultimately to get the stadium funding, package through the process, this came in, as part of it. So, I was not, I just followed, what I followed from, just the information that I was getting fed back. But again, that it ultimately came in, as, in order to get the stadium funding package through, this was part of the deal.
And then that's the only thing that would be on the ballot
Yes,
coming up.
in April, yes.
I've got a lot of people who can't
So-
count the election for you, don't get the machine down.
It can't be the same time as the municipal. So it can't be the same time as the municipal?
The only thing that would be on ballot, I think most counties are facing the same challenges we have. They're having the same problem. I was on the phone with St. Charles County today, Jefferson County as well, having the same conversation, but there's nothing else that would be on there on this timeframe, by the time it has to be put on the ballot.
Just as far as the county is concerned, we're still having school board elections and city
Yeah.
propositions, whatever. But there will be an election regardless. They're just gonna have one more line item printed on each ballot.
So when was this?
How is that so costly?
That's a ten Baker question probably. I don't know. And I thought he mentioned he might be here to see, but his wife had, I know, back surgery.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay, well, we'll
St.
get.
Charles County, their cost would probably be somewhere around 150,000 to their account.
Say, that'd be about half.
There's only one item on there.
Well, ours,
Cheaper, yeah.
Cheaper.
it probably won't be that much less because we've got a ton of precincts and a very large geography. So probably going to be more per citizen in Franklin County than a large county, would be my guess. So, gentlemen, what are we going to do about lowering these levies? Like, how about the PPT? Why don't we just put it at 0? It isn't? Don't you control the levies? Well, at least for the county, right? No, you could do it. Just for the part that goes to the county, you can't control the school boards and all that. It wouldn't be a huge, but be a nice step in the right direction since we're getting hammered. Yeah, it's not that big of a fiscal note for you guys. Personal property. Personal property is hardly anything in your budget.
Yeah, my understanding.
You wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah. So just get rid of your piece. We got to start shrinking government around here. This is Franklin County.
What that number is, but. it
Well,
sounds like
I'm sure
it's not a
you'll-
lot of money, but
I'm sure you'll be finding out in the next couple of days or a couple of weeks.
we've got a lot of deficiencies, like 911 system. It's not funded. We got no money for 911.
Yeah.
So we're.
How many open positions? How many open positions does the county have? Okay. I'm just trying to help you cut. Okay. Yeah,
Speak to the 911 funding just real quickly, having a conversation about that. 911 funding historically has came from the landlines. Money that paid for the 911 services has come, came in the form of a landline tax. That has been a diminishing return as it continues to see the end of them, and eventually there will be no landline. The majority here, maybe some of you still have landlines, but most people operate on cell phones. And so there's no mechanism that funds 911 from that. So we're seeing, potentially a $2+ million shortfall in 911 funding, as we've seen that decline in the past year from 600 some thousand to $300,000 or $400,000 funding coming in on that line. That is a reality. Trying to figure out where does that resources come from, and how do we fill that budget hole? And that's something, again, we're going to be faced with as we go through this budget process of how are we going to look at that in the future, because it's going to ultimately not. And I think the state legislature should act on that mechanism. We have multiple, 911 PSAPs in the county, one in Washington and one in Pacific as well. But again, this is something that's going to have to be dealt with on a statewide level.
And the bigger Franklin County actually.
Like what you're saying is absolutely true. Maybe instead of giving the chiefs all the money, you mentioned the state level, maybe they could help out with that.
I'd love to see the state take the 911 system over to make it uniform throughout the state.
And I can tell you from experience that the people of Franklin County, if they know where their money is going, and I think Ken knows, I think you all know, if they know where their money is going and it's going just for that, especially something in one, they'll jump in feet first.
state doesn't have it. State went 2 billion in the red this year just to fund all the stuff, the big increases from the year before.
Last 3 or 4 year budget cycle.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe.
Well, that's just the reality.
No, there's others that are at fault. Yeah.
But he's one of them.
Excuse me, concerning 911, are you saying that if we call 911 from our cell phones, it won't work?
No, it works. No, it works. It does work.
But you're not being charged on your cell phone for using it. On your landline.
Your landline, there is a fee that's associated with your landline. That's what funds 911 services in the county. But that is continuing to diminish. Again, but most people have migrated to cell phones. That's, they don't have a landline, they get a cell phone, and there's not a mechanism for us to collect a fee on that cell service in order to be able to fund that.
How about putting it on the cell service just for that purpose?
Well, that is something that probably either has to go to the vote of the people or through the state and the legislature in order for that to occur.
State control.
The only problem with that, Tim, is this, that I was there, we've had these 911 discussions, 12 years that I was there.
It's been for a long time, I know.
It's been going on, but the problem is no one wants to give up, like Washington, they have a PSAP that they fund, they have a funding mechanism in Washington that pays their 911. They don't want to give up that. But if the state came up with a 911 funding mechanism, they would want some consolidation of those PSAPs. We don't need one maybe in every county. We maybe need one to serve 3 or 4 county area-wide deal. But nobody wants to give up their little kingdom. And that's why we've always come to a stop. We could never get to a conclusion because no one to say, I'm willing to give up in order to provide the best service across the state. Again, Highway Patrol could do it. But again, everybody has their own little big kingdom they don't want to let go of.
That's kind of similar to the library situation when they all merged. Well, who was the biggest contributor to that? But it don't go both ways apparently. When Warren, Franklin, and Gasconade merged, you remember that? Does anybody remember that? Of course, Franklin County's got the population, so they pay. They didn't mind sharing it then. That's my point.
Ted, go ahead.
Budget can cut the budget. Don't hear any ideas how to cut a penny on the budget. And then here comes this need at 500,000 a year, 500,000 there.
and the budget goes up more because you got this need, oh, let's put it to the voters. Oh, yeah, voters gonna say yes, because they really need it. Why don't we find somewhere to cut the budget, find out amount, and not take it to the voters?
We actually have cut the budget. I know on the assessments that we just went through. The items put down actually.
Well, the assessment, this is the assessment process, and I can't even begin to explain exactly how it works, but I was with the County Commission Association here 2 weeks ago, and we had an assessor come through the tax commission. There needs to be some changes in the assessment process and finally getting to how these rollbacks are supposed to occur when the assessors are required to assess. Is it every other year?
Yes.
They have to assess every other year. Then they're supposed to roll back that levy in order to whatever that increase can be. So just using that process. But again, if we ever got across the state to the correct assessment, whatever those property values are, and got those levies rolled back to where they begin, it is a very complex problem. The tax commission has made some changes. They're not very favorable with a lot of the assessors in the state, and it's got its own set of challenges. But yeah, when you talk about cutting, and we did have this conversation from the commission, everything that we see that comes across our desk, we see increases, continual increases, and whatever kind of fees it is, whatever kind of agreements that we have, that nothing's going down
From outside,
from the outside services. Everything we see is like everything else, inflation, and it costs more and more to do business. And, you know, the insurance, the health insurance, all the things in the county, it's not getting cheaper to do business in the county. It's getting more and more expensive, just like it is for everybody in this room. And so we're faced with the same problem. Yes, we need to tighten our belt where we can, but again, at the end of the day, we're faced with rising costs just like everybody else in the county is.
Well, we've been kicking around some ideas for 911. You know, currently on the landline, it's 15% tax on that landline. So we're looking at a possibility, maybe we dump the 15% tax on landlines, cut it, and then put a 1/4% on sales tax, which 1/4% obviously sounds a lot less than 15% as it is. And the main thing there, it'll raise more revenue overall and would fund 911, but that's a shared cost. Since the 15% landline is just people here in Franklin County. If it's a sales tax 1/4%, it's anybody that buys anything in Franklin County.
Yeah.
So it's a shared, expenditure throughout anybody that goes through Franklin County. And the nice thing is if they call 911, they don't say, oh, that's not a Franklin County resident, I'm not gonna answer. They answer. So they're getting used to 911. So I wouldn't feel bad about them helping finance 911.
So what sales tax are we going to reduce?
No, the 15% on the.
No, I know you're going to cut that, but I mean, if we're going to tax everybody, what are we going to cut? We're going to add one. We got to take one away. No, that's not, I mean, the overall use tax, where are we going to cut? So Greg and then Leanne.
However, it's defined. It's just like he
Yeah.
went to sheriff's department, the building, it's split for personnel. So it's how you define it in the tax law when you go up because it has to be voted on by the people. Can't be mandated.
Right.
People have to approve it.
Back to the,
Charlie, you're next.
Behind the people. If you walk in and say, your budget will not be approved, it's line item by line item, you show me that zero and where you can cut. And have the expectation that's spent, understand costs are going up. There's discretionary spending everywhere. I can guarantee, show me after the budget, I can claim your $85,000 fees.
It's almost 3 million.
It's $110 million last year. So we could find that. No question.
Well, we will. It is line items on the budget.
Hey, what zero base personnel, and I got healthcare and those things, and overtime. This is what I spent last year, so that's done, that's a line item. No, let's go through and say, do you really need 17 people, or can you go with 16? Do you need overtime, or can you go with 15?
What you're saying is gonna be mandated, whether we like it or not, because there's only so much money. So there's gonna have to be cuts beyond.
It shouldn't be because there's only so much money. You should be doing it because it's the right thing to do.
We should be proactively shrinking government.
Let me finish my thought, and the reason we're here today with this problem instead of a year, 2 years ago, or 2 years ago, was because of ARPA funds. ARPA funds came in at $22 million, so that patched a lot of holes, and then they go, okay, so there's no problem anymore, we had $22 million, injected into it. Well, ARPA's one-time deal, and it's gone, so now reality hit home, and so the problem that was in 2022 just got moved up to 2026 budget. 2025 budget and 6 really, and we got to find a way to fix it. And there, I guarantee you there will be cuts. We got no choice. We're gonna have to cut. And we are trying to do things more efficiently. We discuss it. We have different departments. We've been looking at highway department, making smarter ways to use our people and equipment, and getting equipment that cuts back the other use. So we are looking at ways, trying to be more cost efficient, with the taxpayers' dollars, because we're all taxpayers. So we don't want to be subjected to it either, but we're going to try. I like to think we're doing the best we can do. So
we are going to go through these budgets as they get presented to us. We're going to go through these budgets. We're going to ask those types of questions. But again, we only have the ability to look back at historically what they had last year for us to understand what do they need. And again, we'll ask those questions. We had meetings today. And again, I probably can't go into great length or detail on some of the electronic camera systems that we have here and the cost, the recurring cost of that, and how that we can modify that and change that where we're not expending county dollars. I mean, so we're constantly looking at ways to try to save those resources.
Yeah.
But we don't want to spend any more of the taxpayers' money than anybody else does. But again, what is it? I haven't been through it, but as these people come through and present their budgets, we're going to ask questions and make sure that everything they need is necessary. And if they're asking for increase, we've had some that have already asked for increases. We went and looked at what they wanted to try to accomplish with those resources, and we'll make decisions based upon whether the needs actually there.
And we have been, we focused also on cutting recurring costs. And I think we're going to be fairly effective with that, because we had costs that are just recurring that I don't know how necessary it was to be recurring. It's things we can do ourselves.
There you go. That's the first good thing that I've heard on the budget so far. Yeah.
But there's things we can do more efficiently, like you brought up the property on 50. Part of that project from Cochran Engineering did the designs and stuff, and they put estimates on it. Grading out there, $230,000 for grading. We can do that ourselves. So there's $230,000 we're gonna have to put out to pay a contractor to grade. Ditching for the drainage and stuff. We're gonna do that ourselves. So we've been looking at that heavily.
Okay.
We have the capability to do it. There's no reason we shouldn't do it. Our people are capable. They're trained. We do culverts. They do that kind of work. So, and we have the equipment, so we don't have to buy anything. So we're looking at things like that to cut a lot of money.
Wasn't there?
Okay, Charlie.
A couple examples.
Yeah, go ahead then, Charlie. The landslide.
Another example, Paul, maintenance department. Couple of budget out there, somebody retired. We didn't have to cut him, he retired. And then we're not to replace them first. There's one salary. The same with one thing.
And no one lost their job.
40 or 50,000.
50, yeah, 50.
50
around
plus.
50,000.
Then one more test.
Yeah.
Insurance policy, asked on, it was a liability insurance policy,
Umbrella.
umbrella policy, just opted not to do it for $25,000. So we are cutting costs, and it's just getting started. Just getting started.
Yeah, like Trump, we've only been here for 6
But I
months.
will say, the one thing about that Highway 100 potential problem we had there, that was not something that was on our radar screen. That was something that came up. And again, if we wouldn't have had the additional right of way to be able to move that road to the north, where we could get away from that sinkhole, it was potentially, to keep that road open, was gonna be a $1.6 million fix. Because we had to have them come in, try to engineer it, look at it and see what's causing the problem for this to occur. But we had additional right of way, and they felt comfortable with being able to move that road to 40 or 50 feet to the north, where we can be able to, we're on solid ground there. We're gonna cover up that sinkhole area that's there, where that's slid off there. And hopefully that will last us. We won't have that recurring cost. We've been patching that road, it appears, for many years because of that problem there. It just got worse and worse and worse to the point where it finally slowed off so much that we couldn't even be passable.
Charlie, go ahead. You had a question.
When I was calling upon government agencies, departments, I always wondered, the last quarter of the fiscal year, there was a mad rush to spend that money, spend that money, spend that money. And the thing was, the comment was, if we don't spend it, we're gonna lose it. And I can't understand how many departments that I've ever called on that they have said that. And they'll beef up inventory, everything. And there's a lot of money that we don't have, and they keep doing that. Is there some kind of like a doge or something in our situation to get something done on that?
I think it used to be that way more so. I mean, I took care of MoDOT for 10 years, 10 counties, 85, 95. And you're right, that was a pattern I see. And I worked at St. Louis County and I've seen similar patterns. But to be honest with you, what I've seen here, I haven't seen that like I have at other agencies. And as example, we talked about the highway department. He talked to us today with the paving fund. We're gonna have, I think, an excess that we're gonna have left over, and they had an excess last year. Yeah, for $240,000.
There are projects, I'm just using the highway, some of the highway projects. There are funds, though, that when it comes to funds that are allocated for road improvement, stuff like that, if you do not spend them, you do not get those back. And so, and we have to return them to the feds, whoever. But again, if we've asked for money to repair roads or whatever, a bridge, and part of it is sometimes it's the timing because of the weather, we're not able to get things accomplished. But again, there is a scramble of times to spend those money because they have a time frame, and they will go and they'll go somewhere else. And so we want to spend the money that's been allocated to us when it comes to fix our roads and bridges, stuff like that.
Or you have to pay it back. There's IC legislation from the feds, there's CMAQ, congestion mitigation and air quality funds from the feds. There's SDP projects from the state. There's 50-50 projects for the state. Most of the federal projects are 80-20. So we only have to pay 20%. And that's how we do most of our bridges. So we'll get a federal project, do one of our bridges, and we pay 20% of that. I don't know about you, but I'd love to be able to do stuff, improvements around my house and only pay 20%.
Well,
Someone else pay 80.
now that brings up the situation I'm in right now. If we've gone and we're going to remodeling our house, right?
Yeah.
20 years ago, we had maybe one guy did 5 different jobs. Today, it's so specialized, I was gonna have 10 people come in for a job just for a 12 by 12 room.
I do all my own, and my son-in-law can attest to that.
That's got to be the government.
Project after project, and I do them. Hey, you're looking at a 67-year-old diabetic lumberjack right here. I took out 19 trees in the last week.
True. Well, that's okay, but I'm talking about overall.
I think what you're talking about, I think what we've seen in society is people are, still have the people, what I consider jack of all trades, where you could get someone that knew how to do some plumbing, electricity, drywall, all those things. No, they're not. They're more specialized in the fields that they do. They're going to come in, you're going to have to hire an electrician, you're going to have to hire a plumber, you're going to have to hire a drywaller and a painter. And
the prices have tripled.
It is.
And you go, what the hell does this guy do? He comes in, he starts the job,
and then he leaves for 3 days.
Well, in some cases, it's mandated. Luckily here in Franklin County, for electrical, you do your own electrical work. You should do it per code, and they'll still come out and inspect it, but you can do it yourself. Now, in St. Louis County, don't even think about it. You gotta get a licensed electrician. Same thing with City of St. Louis, and a lot of counties are like that. If you want to get some plumbing done, you better have a licensed plumber. If you want electrical, you better have a licensed electrician.
The county departments I'm talking about most of the time, that's the first place. But the county departments, it's just amazing to me what could go on. And when you go into these places now, there's 3 or 4 people saying you got one person waiting on you. But I don't understand that whole concept, of what's going on there. Can people jump up and help you?
Well, if you see that, I ask if you bring that to the attention of that department
That's what everybody in this room's gone through.
or that elected official, because I know I've had discussions with like Tim Baker. He watches his office closely, and I'm not saying the rest of the electeds don't do it. I just don't have that same rapport with them. I do with them, but he keeps an eye on that. If he sees that he definitely takes care of it, brings it to their attention.
Okay.
But he's also the one that does starts with zero budget too. So it's just, it's individuals trying to do a good job out there. If we could have, if everyone could do the same thing, it'd be nice. I agree, and it'd be more efficient. But that authority isn't there right now for us. Now, some of the things we've had departments, personnel policies. Each department had their own personnel policy. That was just unheard of to me. That just didn't make sense. For one county, you get a county paycheck, you should have to be, HR takes care of the whole county. So now we were able to get a HR director, Jared, which is very good, PhD, doctorate in HR. He's also a professor, teaches HR. So he's very knowledgeable, and his first task when he first onboarded was to make sure that we're compliant, because the county wasn't compliant in a lot of things that we could have gotten in trouble for, state and federal compliance on HR matters. So he's taking care of that and getting us out from that litigation. He's putting an umbrella over us where a smart attorney could have come in and really cost us a lot of money.
Tim, go ahead.
You're not an attorney.
I understand. I don't want to be an attorney, believe me. As an example, the county council, they get paid a salary, correct me if I'm wrong, correct?
Well, it's not a salary, it's a contract. We pay them a contract, at least one I know about with our attorney.
Okay, let's say you call him at 9 o'clock at night, do you pay extra for that call?
To my understanding, yes.
If you call him at 9 o'clock at night,
Oh, yeah.
yes, pay him extra.
That's mine.
So he don't get paid enough?
Everything is all across.
I don't call him at 9 o'clock.
Well, there might be instances to where you may need to.
Jim, that's one of the first things I told everybody, all of us did, stepped in here. Don't be calling the attorney willy-nilly to ask him a question. He works on Tuesday and Thursday, and that's what he gets paid for. And of course, there's gonna be other things.
Unless it's a dire emergency, someone's gonna die or something's gonna collapse or something.
We do not call it.
And I realize all of you kind of inherited a lot of problems.
Oh, you're
In fairness.
more than one. Yeah.
Okay, as an example, how much ARPA money did you say we had?
It was 22 million. Right.
Okay, how much of that went towards the principal on these 2 buildings that was built?
My understanding, not a whole lot.
My understanding is none.
Yeah, like, good possibility, I don't know, but I know it wasn't a lot.
So we're still paying interest and refinancing at this.
We're not refinancing.
We're not refinancing.
Not refinancing and no more.
Well, no, but here, I gotta defend that part, because I thought the same thing, when I heard refinancing kick the can, I thought, you never get into your principal.
Right.
But we had due diligence, and we called in our bond guy and talked to him. When that was refinanced, of course, none of us was here, so I gotta give him credit where credit's due. That was a very, very low percentage they locked in, which was good, because back in that day, that's when that percentage was low, and it was, I forgot, 3%, I mean, it was down to 2.8%.
Is it correct that it was financed through the Bank of New York?
Yes, because I've signed that check to the Bank of New York. And I know there's 2, we pay a principal payment, then we pay an interest payment throughout the year. And, but that part I can't, the refinancing probably wasn't smart. Everything I've seen was probably
We won't do
smart.
it again.
But you won't be able to.
Not now.
You won't be able to. Yeah.
So So we gotta give credit where credit's due. Whoever was charged of that did a good job in that regard.
What about for insurance brokerage is what we're paying as opposed to our county?
Well, that's another one we're looking at. We got a big meeting on that. We're looking at all of our, we're not locked in on one. We're looking at all the possibilities. And we had the sheriff here, but the sheriff, he has a concern. As an example, if you have an accident in your car and it's your fault, you pay one deductible, right? 1,000 or whatever, $500. Well, the sheriff pays $5,000 deductible, and he also pays a $5,000 deductible on the car they hit. So he pays 2 deductibles. But I've never even heard that before.
Well, the last, and this was before anybody's time was up there, the last time I looked at it, Franklin County was paying nearly double of what the rest of the counties were paying.
That I don't know. I don't know the.
We are looking at potential, some changes to insurance. Obviously, we're looking at potentially self-insurance.
Self-insurance.
But then, they're just at all options to try to look at how can we cut costs. Part of what brought this on, and we talked about this umbrella that we denied the coverage on, because the simple cost of it. So all of those things are on the table for us to look at. So we have an agent of record right now. We may look at the process of choosing a new agent of record, maybe going potentially self-insured, partially self-insured when it comes to general liability. You know, the sheriff, and again, the sheriff's obviously hit with some very high charges, but when you look at what the premiums that they have spent, what their cost of claims has been, they justify the reason why that they're getting very high. But they've had multiple accidents, things that have caused their insurance to go up. When you use your insurance is going to go up. So we need good claims history. We need good work comp rates. All of those things, we're looking at how can we more efficiently run this county and get the best bang for our buck to the taxpayers. So we will look at all of those programs as they renew. Again, all the stuff's coming at us. We're all new to this year, but I can promise you that if we give them the chance, we're going to make improvements in all those areas and find the best, what we make, hopefully the best decisions for the county going forward.
And according to the brokers' numbers, I didn't say crunch all of their numbers because they didn't have time for all the numbers to crunch. But I think it was 147% he said that we had.
His claims history was for 100% was the amount of premiums paid. He was at 147% of his premiums paid. He'd already spent that much money.
And as our broker, he just, brokering different companies of ours out there. But
that's not very attractive when you go to market and say, we'd like you to provide a quote for insurance for, especially, it's very difficult and challenging to find people who want to insure jails and law enforcement to begin with.
And that's our big challenge. Right now, all of the county vehicles are at one pot. So I'm sure they're insuring us all at the rate of the sheriff's vehicles, and they're the highest risk. So we're even looking at possibly splitting that out somehow. And, here's a crazy fact that was given to us. If our sheriff's deputies drove tandem dump trucks, our insurance would be cheaper than if they drove the cars they're driving.
Oh, absolutely.
Tandem dump trucks, almost a $400,000 vehicle had been cheaper than what we're being charged for vehicles.
Well, if you have a case on the same county with children, right, county cars.
That also.
Tammy had
I know it had.
Tammy had a question, then Sean, and then one more after that. Yes, you first.
Just Washington.
I'm familiar with
I
I work for a technology company where we do research and stuff. I know there's LiDAR cameras and stuff out there that do that. The county's not doing that to my knowledge. Like the tollways have readers, like Illinois Tollway Authority has it, New Jersey Turnpike has it. But to my knowledge, I don't know if any we're doing it, and I don't know any of them. Okay.
You guys aren't planning on doing anything like that to track us. Thank
Can't
you.
afford it.
Thank you.
You don't want them, I'd like to.
But I don't even know if, I don't know if MoDOT's even doing it. Because, their mandate is just move the traffic and signal control. So now if an entity came out like Highway Patrol and said, we want to put it on your mask on, they have to do it because state property. So MoDOT would just say, okay, you're maintaining it. You get someone to maintain it. We're not going to maintain it because we don't have the personnel that know that system, and nor do we have the replacement parts. And, but now the sheriff's department, maybe they got a portable LiDAR, you know, like they're using a vehicle. They'll go through parking lots and replace. That's possible. I don't know what they have.
And just real quick, Dave, you said something about this piece. I couldn't understand what you
Peace
said.
apps.
Peace apps, like you said, like Washington has that. Can you tell me a little more what that is, how they're funding?
Well, that's they have, I think they have a dedicated revenue source or a tax for their to pay for their 911 services.
And it's called a what?
Peace app. The acronym, it's a public service. I mean, I don't know if I won't get all the acronym right, but I mean, that basically is a 911 center is what that is.
I think that still comes through Franklin County. 911, Washington 911 still comes through our county. Is that right there?
But they do have staff and people
They have
at their own 911 personnel.
So who funds that? Where do those funds?
That comes from what city of Washington?
Washington, their taxpayers.
Yes.
Okay.
I think a lot of it's piggybacked on the tax rates in Washington they imposed on themselves.
So you're saying a lot of them wouldn't want to give that up for a state?
If there was a funding mechanism that came from the state, they would want a portion of their funding to continue to go to them. We say to fund their resources. We wouldn't need the city of Washington's 911 center, nor would we need Pacific. We would really only need, if we had one, we could have one in 3 counties, but that's always been the pushback because Gasconade County, other counties don't want to give up their personnel. I mean, it'd be, again, lost of jobs or whatever. That's why I said it. If the state said we're going to give Franklin County $2 million in 911 funding, they would want a portion of it. We would say, no, we don't need your 911 center. You can get that here. And that's why I said it's hard to force that consolidation because no one wants to give that up.
Sean had a question and then Ray.
I like to think I keep a good pulse on the residents in the county when things are being said on Facebook. I think one of the biggest attacks on you guys you've had so far, and in my opinion, a miss on your guys' end, is explaining the auxiliary police appointment thing. I mean, my phone blew up for like 72 hours straight on that. Now, I know why it was done. I understand. I think there's a huge misunderstanding on the why and what you were allowed to do and when. Can you answer at least those questions?
I could touch on some of them if you want.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. What started all of this was the tornado. We had the tornado everybody knows about in Windham County. And contacted the sheriff and asked if we could get an emergency vehicle to use to get past these roadblocks the state put up, the different fire entities put up. We have no authority to go past them. So we're responsible for the county and have to answer for things for the county, but we didn't have the means to go and look to see what was wrong with the county. So the sheriff said, yeah, sure, no problem, got us a vehicle. We went around, we documented every location that got hit by the tornado, every single one, even Purina. That was in the county, but not county property, but every personal property that was damaged, the business properties. We documented everything and heavily, hundreds of pictures. And what I found, what the nice thing about that was when the time to come get the FEMA money, the state wanted to put everything out as a one deal for every county that was affected. But we went ahead and complied, gave the information the state requested that we should. But we went ahead and filed our own also with FEMA. Well, the state got turned down with FEMA, but we got approved. And I'd like to think a lot of that approved was the documentation we did. We documented it heavily. I mean, it's hundreds of pictures. So my experience in the public sector, which I've been a lot of years, the easier you make it for that person to do their job, the more apt it is they're going to do it. And I think that's what happened here is we made it very easy for them to do their job. So they approved ours. And that was, I believe, well over $1 million that we probably wouldn't have got if we wouldn't have been able to do that type of work. Well, what I was doing with myself, and I know probably the other two did the same thing, I just started reading all the state statutes, not just because of the tornado, but because of everything. I was not a politician. I'm not familiar with all the statutes. So every night I just started reading through them. And I ran across one that said, we weren't allowed to use emergency vehicles. You had to be a police officer. You had to be a fireman. It covered another one. I think it was like a juvenile type, where you go and arrest juveniles and stuff. So we weren't really even able to use that vehicle. by state statute, which I found that alarming because now we're doing something wrong, that we could have got in trouble for maybe. But the sheriff's one that gave it to us, so I pointed to him. But anyway, I just kept on reading and then I found another part of the state statute, maybe it was to fix the other deficiency, that said that we have the authority, every county, first class, that's the commission has the authority to appoint police officers and firemen. The caveat is no pay though. You don't get any pay. It's all volunteer. So I thought there's our solution. We can appoint ourselves police officers. So under emergencies, if another emergency occurs, and we made sure that was in there. We had Mark go do it legally. No arrest powers. We don't have any arrests. We don't have the authority where the police officer would have with arrest powers and stuff. You can see we're not carrying firearms and, SWAT gear and everything and nightsticks. But the whole point behind it was a technicality and a formality so that if we have another tornado or a flood, we would be able to use the emergency vehicle to do the same thing we did before and not have to worry about breaking some state statute or something. That was the whole thing in a nutshell. That's the reason we did it.
It's not something, again, it only become in the event of a declared emergency.
Right.
It's not something that, at any point in time, we're going to say, okay, now we're going to all of a sudden do the police officer. Again, Ken is the one that did the research on it. He came up with the idea and said, hey, this would solve this problem. We wouldn't be in violation if we, again, to get around some of these roadblocks in different places where law enforcement's there and they've got the road shut down and we as the county commissioner, I was not an appointed commissioner at that time. So, but these guys faced, some of those roadblocking challenges. Had they had those credentials as a officer, they could get through those potential areas where they would be held back from. That was the only purpose in getting to the point where we could appoint ourselves to be auxiliary policemen, was so that in an event of an emergency, we would have access where we wouldn't be able to be turned away because we have to make decisions based upon the information that we see and or could gather information.
Right.
No
arrest power.
And the other thing is, here's the other thing we could do as commissioners. We could say, Steve, Sheriff, we can't be together because sunshine. So we have to act independently. So he'd have to provide 3 deputies for each one of us to escort us around to all these locations. And I don't know about you, but in a time of emergency like that, the 3 deputies probably got a lot more important things to do than to babysit us and take us around when we could do that ourselves. And we wouldn't even need to borrow a car in this regard. All we'd have some kind of identifying thing that says, what we are, and we can get past. So we wouldn't even be taking a vehicle away from the sheriff's department, which they had spare. So that was that big a deal. They had reserve vehicles, they call it. But the actual personnel, when something like that happens, man, there is no spares. They're all busy. I mean, they're all doing something out there, traffic control and they're full cats out treatment, that's fine. Just doing the regular stuff that they would do.
So to clarify, I think the miss is that, I know I talked to you, Ken, Paul. I think topics like that need to be much more forward transparent rather than retroactively. I think these are the types of things people want to hear beforehand. Because like I said, I know why you did it. And it makes sense to me because I read the statutes. But a lot of people are thinking that you guys are tyrants right now. I mean, I'm using their verbiage: dictator, tyrant, authoritarian, you name it.
Well, come this budget, as we're going through it, some of the department heads and elections probably will think we're tired.
Well, I'm just saying, for the benefit of the people on topics like that, that's something that needs to be like, hey, we're thinking about this, here's what it means. And the statute, I believe, actually says shall do this. So it's not like one of the things that are kind of nebulous, like it's pretty transparent.
Can you put that?
This is within your authority.
Pardon?
Have you guys put that on the website or something to clarify a little bit more directly for you?
Our website has been, it's been a wreck, but
It is.
we have basically one guy, Chuck, that does all of our IT stuff, and he's very busy. And I know he had some money from his last year's budget to do a new website, but he didn't even have the time himself to work with the person that he was going to hire to help him do the new budget or the new website. Now we've just been able to start getting around to that, and there is, I don't know what he said that rollout was, but there is going to be a rollout to the new website next week.
He needs to learn if it ain't broke, don't fix it personally.
Well, you're one of the ones that complains that the website.
I complain to everybody here about it.
Well, one of the things that we did have to go through is we had to have, our website had to be ADA compliant. And so we've been through that process of making sure that everything on the county website is ADA compliant. So he's been tasked with doing that. And so we went through that today with him. He'll be going through with each department and letting them review the website. Currently, I think he's made some fantastic improvements to it, where people can navigate through that website, but then also we had to meet that compliance. Again, this is something that we don't get a choice in. The federal government says you're going to be ADA compliant. Whatever you put on there has to be that.
Well, that's fine, but a lot of the cosmetic changes that are going on and the fact that there was work being done during an election cycle was not a good move because I couldn't get my sample ballot for days leading up to the election. And that, in my opinion, is a degree of unintentional election interference, right? It's not that it was intentional, but things like that, I think were not thought through.
So in the interest of time, I think Ray had a question and then we'll wrap it up.
Drawback is it's gonna eliminate a lot of jobs.
The city of St. Louis, they tried an AI technology for their 911 and it flopped.
So they tried.
Look into the city of St. Louis.
Well, we know that's going to be bad. So let's give.
I'd like to answer one.
Okay. So one more and then we'll move on.
One elected official. So we're going through, as we said, looking at where we can save money and not pay recurring fees. This camera system in this building, judicial building, the courts and all that, it's a proprietary system. We can't, like that camera, if something goes wrong with it, you've got to buy that camera from that person. You can't go somewhere else and buy the camera. It's a very closed architecture and proprietary. So we have a yearly fee, they're saying, with the 20
License fee, 20.
and it's a license fee. So it's not maintenance fee. We got the same thing we had yesterday, but we just get to use it tomorrow for $27,000, which to me, that's just ludicrous. So we're looking at doing an open architecture system, totally open, and we would own the system. Right now, it's going to the cloud, kinda, and then if there's a question, then they send something back. And each camera can, I think it was like 30 days or something to record. But if we want to access that, you have to go to the proprietary person and ask, and then they pull it, send it back, pull it, they'll push back to us. But we're looking at different systems, and there may be a possibility that we could be without cameras for a while. And we did talk to our security for all these facilities, our lieutenant, and that's in charge of it. He's seen no real problem with it. I mean, my thing was if someone was asked me, well, what are we going to do without the cameras? My answer would be, well, what'd you do before you had cameras? You know, cameras didn't always exist. And so what you do before that, I suggest do that. You know, that'd be my suggestion. But so we may have some downtime. We're going to shoot for a 0 downtime, you know, just a smooth transition. And these door locks are the same way. They're getting ready to switch that to a proprietary system, to a different proprietary system. And it's on a proprietary system on a different vendor now. But it's at the end of the age of their lives. We could probably still use a lot of these door locks, physical locks, but the software itself it's unsupported and they don't offer support for it any longer. So we're looking for open architecture there also to do it. And I think the system we're looking at for the camera system could do the door locks, our IDs and cameras. So we get everything taken care of with one.
Well, open architecture, they probably don't know what that is. I didn't know what it was.
So the open architecture is if that camera broke, I can go anywhere to buy a camera. I can order off CDW.
Right.
I can go to a Radio Shack, buy one if it's similar and plug it in and it'll work. You know, there's only like 4 different formats of video that transmit, and most cameras will transmit all 4. But when these companies make a proprietary, the manufacturer will purposely lock that camera down with firmware that only their video format works on. So you can't go in there and say, okay, well, I'll just change formats, you know, and not send it to them and do our own video server.
Right.
For example, video server, we're told it's like $3,000. Now, $27,000 of just the fee to keep using what we have.
License.
Well, we could buy a brand new server that does 128 cameras and we have 89, I think they said, for like $3,000, brand new, and it's ours, we own it. So that's just craziness, you know, to keep paying.
When is
that
this,
fee.
is this under a contract right now? You gotta wait until that's done.
No, it's not under contract, it's just a license. So if we don't pay the license, they shut the cameras off after the 18th.
Sum it up.
They'll shut them off, is what
18th
they
of
say.
this month, we've got to pay a $27,000 licensing fee, or these cameras can't be live.
Now,
Are you planning on not paying it?
But here's,
we don't want to pay it. I mean,
we might be able
I
to get
can't
all
for
the
the life of
cameras
me vote for that.
Right, for
for
that.
25,000.
We are submitted out for folks right now to look at having our own system, as Ken explained, and getting away from this ongoing recurring cost.
That
We think that we can run it, through, and take care of it ourselves, as opposed to, paying. Again, all manufacturers have gone to this. I mean, I guess everybody in here probably recognizes that stuff is built for failure. And you've got to go back to the manufacturer in order to get it worked on. You can't work on your own cars. You can't work on anything because it's designed so that you can't. That's the same way they've done these camera systems, security systems. They want you to get you on the hook, and have you keep paying monthly. That's the trend, and that's the way this is on. But we're hopeful that we can cut those costs with our own system and again, save the county money, but then still be able to provide the video and stuff that's necessary for some security measures that are required by the county.
So we got it in September.
So last comment.
You can buy a different brand camera, or the same. Right. That's what they mean by overarching.
And the costing of it, for example, we pulled the old commission order that commissioned these cameras to be in effect and pay the services fees. But for the cameras, and I think the equipment for the doors, the access doors, was $225,000. Well, just a ballpark we've been given to have some of the latest and greatest video, even with facial recognition, if you wanted it, was like 40 grand today.
So who decided on this?
Okay, thank you. We could go on for a long time. These gentlemen deserve a round of applause. This is, in my 4 years on the committee, this is the first time the full commission has sat down with us for over an hour and answered questions. So we thank you a lot for that. Yeah, very gracious of you.
I'd like to see us continue these types of things, maybe not even with just the FCRCC, but, different locations, maybe, somewhere up in the first district and then somewhere the south parts of the people can't get here, maybe, down to Sullivan or St. Clair or Pacific and up in, Washington, different areas. But I think it's a good format. I think it's a good rinsing of the wash, people have questions, they get them out there.
Yeah. Well done.
That you are Pacific.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's people out there with questions who just can't make it,
Right.
even to this,
Yeah.
can't make it here.
No, it's understandable. Okay, thank you again. We will move to committee reports. And you're welcome to stay, gentlemen, or not. It's totally up to you. And Amanda, you can stay if you'd like. Membership committee. Any reports?
We had to cancel last meeting, so
Okay.
we'll meet again.
Okay.
I guess next one. 2 months from now. 2 months from now.
Okay. Political action, coordinated and vetting. I don't have anything for that. Technology. Brad.
Yeah, everyone had a chance to look at the website. No, it's all, I mean, it's way different than what